Welcome to today's Explainer. You know, we often think of consumer technology, our phones, tablets, laptops, as things pulling us into the future. Or, actually, let's be honest, a lot of times we just see them as distractions. But today, we're exploring a completely different side of this. We're going to look at how these exact same modern devices are being strategically deployed to save something ancient, an endangered indigenous language. It's an incredible story of how the Cherokee Nation is weaving together age-old traditions with cutting-edge code to completely bridge the generational divide.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Just 1,500. To put that into perspective, out of a global population of over 480,000 Cherokee people today, there are fewer than 1,500 fluent speakers of the language left. That is a seriously stark reality. Because, when a language is lost, it's not just words disappearing. An entire worldview, a culture's history, its unique connection to the earth, the whole shebang can vanish with it. But, as we're going to see throughout this explainer, the Cherokee Nation is absolutely fighting back, and they are doing it with some incredible innovation.
So, to combat this rapid decline, the Cherokee Immersion School, which is a branch of the Durbin Feeling Language Center down in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, they've taken on a very specific mission. They're actively creating language warriors. That's a term coined by Erlinda Daxey Soap, who's a fifth-grade teacher at the school, and I just love this approach. She doesn't just see her students as, kids going to class, she sees them as future Cherokee leaders. To her, they're vital protectors of their heritage who are stepping up to share and actively grow the language.
Now, to really grasp how big of a deal this is, we need to take a quick step back in time. Let's look at Section 1, a revolutionary communication tool.
Storytelling and technology, they've literally always been a through line for the Cherokee. Over 200 years ago, a Cherokee warrior named Sequoyah achieved something completely monumental. He established a written syllabary made up of 86 characters, and each character represents a very specific sound or syllable in the spoken language. For its time, this was a revolutionary piece of communication tech. It allowed the language to be written down for the very first time, which directly paved the way for the nation's first bilingual print newspaper back in the 19th century. And fast forward to today, thanks to a huge collaboration involving Cherokee artist Roy Boney Jr. and Apple engineers, that exact 86-character syllabary is now fully integrated and accessible right on the keyboards of everyday Mac, iPad, and iPhone devices.
And this brilliantly illustrates the bridge between historical legacy and modern relevancy. Cherokee Nation's principal chief, Chuck Hoskin Jr., really hits the nail on the head here. He points out that having the syllabary on modern devices suddenly blasts it onto the leading edge of technology. It takes something that frankly used to feel confined to history books and puts it right onto the screens young people are staring at every single day. It makes the culture literally accessible at their fingertips. That right there, that's real power.
So, how is all this being harnessed day to day? Let's move into Section 2, Technology in the Classroom. If you walk into teacher Erlinda Soap's classroom, the contrast between the old ways of learning and the new is just striking. Students there actually start their day in front of an affirmation mirror, repeating Cherokee phrases like, "I am smart, I am loved, and I am strong," gearing up for the Cherokee Language Challenge Bowl. Now, in the past, studying just meant writing words individually on paper with a pencil. It was completely static. But today, students are using the Notes app on their iPads to type out the syllabary, and, this is the crucial part, they record themselves speaking the words out loud. As Miss Soap explains, in the Cherokee language, every single sound is vitally important. If you are just one sound off, you are literally saying a completely different word. So the ability to capture, playback, and perfect those exact tonal sounds at school and at home is an absolute game changer for building confident speakers.
But here's the thing. The learning totally doesn't stop at pronunciation. Let's look at Section 3, Weaving Culture and Code. Just down the hall from Miss Soap, teacher Tyler Teague is overseeing this incredibly cool project. Traditions rooted in nature and medicinal plants are a massive part of Cherokee culture. So what are his students doing? They're actually building a custom plant identification app. First, they use Keynote on their iPads to draft out the app's interface, dropping in pictures, plant names, and recording their own audio sound bites. And I love this detail. Teague notes that if a student says, "Hey, my grandma pronounces this differently because of community dialects," they just record grandma's voice right into the app. Next, they head outside, collect photos of the local environment, and annotate them to train a custom machine learning model. Finally, they bring the whole thing together into a fully functional app using Apple's Swift Playgrounds. And this brilliantly illustrates the intersection of nature and coding. They aren't just consuming technology, they are actively building it to preserve their own ancestral knowledge.
It's truly fascinating, isn't it? And this blending of the old and the new extends beautifully into art and storytelling as well.
Take the water spider origin story. So according to ancient Cherokee tradition, when the world needed the first fire, different animals tried and failed to retrieve it. Ultimately, it was the tiny water spider who succeeded, and she did it by weaving a miniature basket on her back to safely carry the flame home. Today, that exact ancient story of the water spider serves as the foundational lesson in teacher Jenny Pruitt's basket weaving class at the nearby Sequoia High School.
And that ancient story translates so perfectly into today's classroom activities. After learning about the water spider, Pruitt students grab their iPads and go out to photograph physical baskets. Then, they use those photos as references to design their own 3D basket models using the Freeform app. In other classes, students are illustrating cultural stories in Keynote and animating them with voiceovers in iMovie. Over in the high school's Streamlab, where science, tech, art, and math all collide, they're using iPads and Apple Pencils to digitally design traditional ribbon skirts before hand sewing them. And honestly, perhaps coolest of all, teacher Melissa Forkiller helps students produce a podcast called Stories of Sequoia. They literally sit down and interview community elders, like Sam Horsechief, who's been coaching there since 1987, and then edit the audio on Mac computers using GarageBand. They're using digital media to respectfully preserve and share their deepest cultural meanings. But of course, the apps, the 3D models, the podcasts, they're all just vessels for the real goal. Let's jump to Section 4, Empowering the Next Generation.
The emotional payoff of all this work is profound. Olivia Dougherty, who's a sophomore at Sequoia High School and a graduate of the Immersion School, really puts the stakes into perspective. She realized recently that her young niece is a first language speaker in their language. As Olivia says, she's one of the first in a very, very long time. Olivia herself uses art and conversational Cherokee classes to stay connected, remembering how her dad used to teach her Cherokee animal names while they were just out driving around. Now, because of these intensive immersion programs and the seamless integration of modern, accessible learning tools, the language is being completely normalized again for the absolute youngest generation. The mission of the Language Warriors? It's undeniably working.
Cherokee Nation's Deputy Principal Chief Brian Warner pointed out that without these digital tools, there is simply no way they would be seeing the language move and grow as incredibly fast as it is today. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If a 200-year-old alphabet, born in the woods of the 19th century, can thrive and find entirely new life on tomorrow's digital screens, what other fragile pieces of our human heritage can technology help us save? The devices sitting in our pockets right now don't just have to be for mindless scrolling. They can be purposeful, powerful instruments of cultural survival. Think about that the next time you pick up your phone. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.